Remember, please hit like and subscribe for me. Thank you so much. Okay, let's go.
Hi everyone. My name's Anne-Marie Band. Today is Monday, March the 2nd, and this is the Moneyball Morning Report. Charts by TrendSpider and Gamma Flows by MentorQ. We are looking at downward pressure holding in the ES as we stare down this chart. What I'd like to do is show you the daily very quickly. As you can see, we're still in a range. So here's the thing. If things were horribly dramatic, we would have broken the range and continued sell-off. As someone who has actually seen this happen and be limit down into the beginning of the day, we are not sitting in a space where traders are dramatically fearful. They just do not appear to be fearful at this juncture. Now, what we really could see is a little bit of prolonged action with this relatively serious skirmish. I'll call it a skirmish right now. But what we are doing is sitting at the bottom of the range. For deep value buyers, this is a go, no-go line. And if we go to the 30-minute chart, and you happen to watch me on market kickoff yesterday, what I talked about was a dramatic amount of volume coming in on the bullish side here. Now, it took 2 hours to resolve higher, but it did move to the north before collapsing at around 68.56. That's probably going to be the high if buyers are particularly nervous about what's going on. We have something that is sort of morphing into Sunni versus Shia. And so that could make for more sticky bits. That being said, what we're doing right now is battling right this minute at those areas that were carrying so much volume and inside of the 30-minute box of trading, right? That's my opening range that I like to watch. Where's the VWAP? Well, it's below us right now, but it's definitely trending lower. What's the bottom line? We have got to hold this 68.08. That is the go, no-go line in my mind. Now, we have the put wall here at 6,800. So how might this affect us? Well, we are going to be in negative gamma. And so losing this edge again after spending so much time trying to hold it could easily give us acceleration to the downside. Easily. That being said, we could also dance around here. It really depends on how negative that gamma flow is. If you're like, lady, I don't even know what you're talking about with the negative gamma flow, don't even worry about it. Look at price. Realize the loss of 68.08 needs to be immediately recaptured, or it's very likely that we have more downside pressure. Low 6,768, and then below that 6,756, and then below that 6,733, and then 6,710. Do I anticipate that? No. I suspect this is going to be some sort of digestion mode for whatever it is that we are staring down. So should we recover 6,831, we'll be back in the gap, moving up into 6,856 and then 6,873. Hopefully we recover and we get right back in our little box. Let's take a look at the NQ. So our NQ trigger from Friday did a really nice job of breaking us down. We're going to have it again. That number's 24,955. 25,000 is a big fat round number. So, if it gets above there, they'll probably head after that supply zone at 25,022. Okay? That's what we're looking at. The put wall is at 24,000 for the NQ. We haven't really talked about the call walls because they don't really matter right now. So here we are from a daily perspective. We're at the bottom of the range. We haven't broken it. Line in the sand, 24,500 or so. You know that's going to take 50 ticks potentially as it gets noisy. What is trend? Down. What is momentum? Up. And that's because they've been trying to hold this floor in the NQ. So what is that number? I think it's 24,600. And that's the go, no-go line in my mind. 24,600 or so. It'll get sticky. They're trying to build this area because remember, in the opening range, they spent a ton of money trying to hold the floor. And they lost the floor. Look at the break of both sides. Pretty unusual to have a break that's expansive, but it did on both sides. Same thing in the ES. This tells us markets are very unstable and likely range-bound in a gigantic pocket. Okay? We need to recover. Remember, when momentum is up but trend is down, they are trying to find resistance. So where is that resistance? 24,780 to 24,900. The gap is going to be filled at 24,955. They might try to fill the gap if we get some forward traction. A lot of people are going to try to buy the dip. But see, they've been trying to buy the dip since here. And that's all they got, the lower high. So my suspicion is bounces are sell zones. The broad RSI is telling that to us on both sides of the equation. Let's take a look at micro Bitcoin. So the low in micro Bitcoin is Friday's low at 65, but the live Bitcoin charts tested 63,000 when the shots were fired. Okay, so that's going to be a continued line in the sand. That's 63,000. So far, micro Bitcoin is holding above its 30-minute formation. So what does this tell us? A couple of things. It could tell us, hey, we're just sitting in a big flag pattern, and it is what it is. We break the flag, we are going to be moving back down. So where is that break? The go, no-go line, in my suspicion, is around 66,100. We need to hold that line. If we don't, probably heading back to 65 and below. It's pretty messy, but that 30-minute was wide, right? Didn't quite fill in the zone, but they've come in and held the halfway mark. Pre-market lows are important to watch. 65,800. We could wick down into there and move. What is momentum telling us? It's sideways. Literally sideways. So dips, going to give you solid buy regions. Low 65,000s, maybe 65 even if we're lucky. It comes in there and gives us a bounce, but this is very messy. And it's still telling us that they are trying to build some sort of structure here, but the buyers are not pushing us higher at this particular juncture. They simply are not. It's very sideways, significant congestion, and a lot of supply that used to be demand is sitting up here at this 67,500 area. I would say that's a pretty fair shorting zone. If it were me staring this down, I certainly would be inclined to look at around 67,600, anchored VWAP from Thursday, right where that demand area collapsed. That would be what I would suspect to be a bearish formation. All right, let's take a look at oil. This is the big one, of course. Could we have trouble at the Strait of Hormuz? Yes. Iran came in with guns blazing, literally, and they've done a fair bit to hold themselves off, conventionally, as it were. What are we staring down here in grand fashion? Let's take a look. All of this area, July 2025. I think this was maybe the Israeli-Iran conflict. That's right at about 73. And then we have 78 to the upside there. Look at all of this price compression from a daily perspective. They held inventory all the way from 69 to 77.50. That's what we are going to stare down as well. If we can get into that 69 area, it looks pretty bullish. Take a look at the 30-minute chart, though. It's held fairly well. Big gap down, big gap up, faded to about 71. Now, the call wall is here at 70. Because, yeah, this one's going to be sticky. The flow here is positive. It's got positive structure, so this wall should rise on any kind of dip. We shall see, but still sitting in the middle of that 30-minute range. If things escalate and we have a bigger event or protracted movement, we're going to be looking at 80. Now, I suspect the powers that be would love to see this fade, and that fade puts us right at the bottom where the anchored VWAP from Friday is, and that's $66.68. That would be the sweet spot of a buy in my mind, but there's $1 of risk sitting here. So far, momentum is tracking price very well, so it's not showing us anything very dramatic. Remember, risk is outsized. Margins are increased across the board, all over the place. And so our thought is, what is trend? See, we're very fortunate to have a prop firm because we don't really have to worry about it. They worry about all the risk. We just get to take the trades and the setups. So it gets us a little immune to that. But if you've got a live account, you are going to be very careful and not slinging around size like you're some maverick. Or at least I'm not. It's very important to manage yourself in this space. The fade of 71 gives us good price action to the south. Into 70 and then another bounce. Okay, let's go to gold. Gold's broken out. Look at the 30-minute formation. Interesting. All of our charts are coming back to our 30-minute box. This is a very wide price action event. 5,320 as the low. 5,321. And the high is well above the call wall at 5,440-ish. 5,400 is the call wall. This is positive gamma for this instrument, just like oil is. So this wall will be, just like oil, it will try to be a magnet because the gamma flow for this instrument is positive. Everywhere else has negative gamma flow. And if the negative flow gets significant enough, we'll have ourselves a bigger expansion, but at this juncture, not so much. What is our go, no-go line? Well, that's kind of sticky, right? For buyers, they have to hold 5,321. Where are we now? 5,400. That's $80 away. So risk is very high here if you're trying to trade the overall trend. What is momentum? It's fairly bullish. However, it's divergent. Notice this spike here in momentum, the higher high has given us a lower high in momentum. That tells me we're likely to fall into the box if that trend continues. Because the moving averages are up, this downward flow only tells us we have support action that is being tested. Nothing else about a breakdown. That number is at 5,380. And so we would want to look at that. There is a supply formation at 5,350. You know, we could look at that. I'm going to wait for the base case here to see if I can get a pretty solid dip on the horizon. And that's what I'll be staring down. Let's take a look at SPY. SPY's tracking at about 680 right now. It's a little bit around that area. And you can see from a big perspective, that's the bottom of the range. So deep wicks around this area, likely to hold. The put wall is all the way down here at 675. So if we present with wicks like this, but those wicks give us a lower high event, like we are seeing currently, a breakdown into 675, not out of the question. Do we normally have ourselves a little bit of bounce action here from a seasonal perspective? Yes, we do, but these are different times, so we may end up chopping around on the bottom here before our next bounce. Ideal buy zones in the SPY will come after they've formed structure on the bottom. They are bouncing off of those relative highs that they've made and then coming back and holding a low that allows us to move forward. So far, there's none of that. All right, stay frosty, folks. Going to be interesting. Going to have a lot of news. You want to be careful. You want to trade small. You want to manage your risk. And listen, there's nothing wrong with just watching the markets and seeing if you can understand what's actually happening. Trade your practice account if you can. All right, take care, and I'll see you today on the Benzinga platform and group coaching on Top Step TV. Take care, everyone.